Hello everyone, it's the Venom Xenomorph and welcome to another Dead by Daylight killer concept video. It's been a very long time since I made one of these, and this time we are revisiting an old friend of ours from way back when I actually, started making these concepts, and we're revisiting the Ink Demon. This is a concept that I came up with not too long ago on the channel, really, and the concept was definitely not as fleshed out as the Springtrap one was. Something that I actually personally regret, but with the new game and the hype behind the new game, I felt like the new design and the new characteristics of the new Ink Demon allow for a much more interesting Dead by Daylight killer concept. So, if you guys enjoy this video, leave a like and subscribe down below and hit the notification bell for more videos like these. And yeah, let's get right into it. So for starters, the design for the Ink Demon would obviously be very similar to that of the Dark Revival design, more so than the design that was in Ink Machine, because it's definitely a more monstrous figure and a more looming and terrifying figure than the one that was in the original game. Not only that, but the weapon seems to be a little bit more basic. In my original concept, I believed that a gent pipe would suffice for the weapon of the older Ink Demon, but this new version being more demonic and more monstrous, I feel like just its claw would be more than enough to damage a survivor. Breaking down the power was something that I actually really wanted to do way more in depth on in the last killer, and this time I've done a lot of developing and thinking of a power for the Ink Demon. So for the power, it would be something similar, like I would dub it the Dark Puddles, in my personal opinion. The Ink Demon is able to hold a secondary attack button, which would allow it to lunge like a Demogorgon-like shred attack towards survivors, which injures them and blinds them with ink, similar to that when Nemesis hits a survivor with his, tentacle. It injures them and blinds them with ink that they would then have to wash off at gent lockers across the map, which is similar to the plague when you're infected by her and her, vomit, and super disgusting. The use of a gent locker leaves ink at the bottom for the Ink Demon to collect and grow stronger through tiers, similar to Michael Myers, with Tier 1 allowing no terror radius, Tier 2 allowing terror radius to 16 meters, and Tier 3 affecting all survivors with the exposed status effect and increasing the terror radius to 32 meters until it's degraded back to Tier 2 after 60 seconds. Obviously, that kind of stuff can be altered by different add-ons that are added to the ability. Unlike the Demogorgon's power, however, the shred attack will not break pallets, which balances the Michael Myers-like ability, and it makes the shred attack a little bit more passive and something that should be used to put pressure on survivors and not something that should be relied upon to kill them all the time. There would be a limit of 6 to 7 gent lockers around the map, and the cleansing of a locker would tier the Ink Demon up to 1 full tier if he cleansed it, excluding the Tier 3, which would take 2 to 3 cleansings of the lockers, just so that way the ability, the exposed status effect, is a little bit harder to get to. I would argue that add-ons would make it a lot easier to access in the game, but it shouldn't be so easy that you should have it all game, The Ink Demon, as a secondary power ability and a more passive ability, can also place ink puddles across the map to teleport to and from by hitting the left bumper, L1, or control button, similar to that of Demogorgon, that survivors can destroy. And when a survivor is destroying the portal, they are hit with the blindness and exhausted status effects. These effects persist for 10 seconds after the survivor leaves or destroys a portal, which again can be altered by add-ons. Thanks to the advice of Wheat Draws, I did discuss with him a little bit of perks, so I would highly suggest checking out Wheat Draws. He has a lot of amazing perk image concepts and kits for everybody to be able to use. Currently, he's not able to take commissions because his PC is down at the moment, so if you want to help him out in any way, definitely reach out to him and see if you can. But he definitely does a fantastic job, and he knows perks more than I think anybody that I personally know. So with his advice, talking about perks, we decided that the Ink Demon and his ability would be able to affect survivor repair speeds and induce exhaustion in survivors, with the only certain perk that I've conceived being dubbed Demonic Aura. This perk reduces survivor repair speeds when the terror radius of the killer is within within the area by 8 to 10 to 12%, depending on the tier. A subtle yet powerful pressure perk that makes the survivor's play more risky to prevent the killer from paying closer attention to generators via coordinated distraction plays. Because a lot of times killers focus immediately on the generators, and it's the right way to play the game. But you, as a survivor, your goal is to allow your other survivors to focus on the generators. So not a lot of people coordinate with their team, and not a lot of people work together to be able to get the killers away from generators to be able to focus on repairing them. This perk by the Ink Demon and it being teachable on other killers would force survivors to play those risky plays, which benefits the killer in a way, because then that means that the killer is able to take out a survivor one by one, but balances out the survivor aspect by letting the other survivors focus on generators while one of their members is distracting the Ink Demon. This perk is then balanced by the power, which at the beginning of the game also involves a 0 terror radius with tier 1, so it isn't in effect until after tier 2 has begun, which, depending on the pressure and depending on the power of the Ink Demon with the whole Gent Locker situation, could either be really, really quick or take a while during the game, so it helps balance that ability out from being too OP. In terms of a map, it was pretty obvious to me that the Ink Demon would have a map very similar to the Hawkins lab for the Demogorgon, but in the form of a Joey Drew style studio. I feel like it would be a little bit more balanced towards the Ink Demon on that kind of map, but since we do have a lot more open maps, especially with the new one coming out with the Knight and Vittorio chapter, I would argue that a closed indoors map is kind of what the game needs right now, especially if it's a little bit more balanced than the original Hawkins lab was, between survivor and killer odds. And the moment you all have been waiting for, I guarantee you've been waiting for this, is my thoughts on the survivor for this chapter. In my opinion, there would be two. Henry Stein, of course, and Audrey Drew would both be the survivors. Henry would have perks regarding haste and endurance. After all, he is a main survivor of the original game, with nothing really special to him as much as his wits and skill. And Audrey, on the other hand, would have perks centered entirely around boon totems, very similar to Michaela Reed. After all, she does have a way of controlling the puddles, very similar to the Ink Demon. So I would argue that this is a pretty solid concept, in my opinion. It's definitely a lot more solid and more prepared than my Springtrap one was, and hopefully you guys, the Bendy and the Dark Revival, Bendy and the Machine fandom, as well as my Dead by Daylight fans out there on the channel, think that this concept is a little bit more accurate to something you would want to see as a killer in Dead by Daylight. So let me know in the comments down below if you actually really thought that this concept was worth it, or if there are things you would tweak or change. Obviously, if there are any powers or abilities that sound a little too OP, leave that to the devs to balance out. Don't worry too much about altering the concept. After all, it is just a concept. And let me know what you guys think down below. Leave a like and comment, subscribe, and do all the magic things that you do for the channel. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye!